Over the last 24 hours in China, there have been some scuffles, and there have been not just in one place, but in Beijing, Shanghai, Xinjiang, Chongqing, Wuhan, Guangzhou. People have had enough of the CCP. They've had enough with Xi Jinping. Some protesters, you could say, have been shouting out, "Down with the CCP." Note how they do use the word CCP and not CPC. Down with Xi Jinping and liberate us. We are tired of the whole situation. You could call it like T-squared 2.0. Here is a small snippet of what's been happening in China over the last 24 hours. This really is unprecedented, that a protest like this would actually even happen in China. Protests are sort of allowed, but when it's against the government, it's a big no-no. What I'm going to show you here is a clip of a show from about 24 to 36 hours ago with two Westerners who live in China and do support the CCP. They're saying that people do love the government in China.
Revolt against the government because they like the government. Because they like the government. Okay with the government. Because they are satisfied with the conditions and the wealth and the well-being and the safety. They're satisfied with how the government is run in the country. That's why they don't revolt against the government.
Now, would you agree with that statement? Have a look at this. I think they will be eating their words, and maybe they will be trying to delete that topic off YouTube. There is another guy who lives in Thailand called Brian Beletic, and he says basically everything in the world is America's fault, and everything is funded by the NED, which is the National Endowment for Development, NED, something like that, and the US government does donate $100 million to them. And I'm sure he will blame it on them that the NED organized all these events in China. I think he has to eat his words as well. So after a while, when these protests did take place, and they went near enough throughout the night until about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, that's when the police were given orders to take busloads of the people who were angry, the citizens, to a prison, basically, not too sure where. And ever since then, it sort of died down.
现在所有人站在人民的对立面是为什么呢？人民就是被大家拿来压在底下的是吗？我们人民警察为人民服务，为国家贡献自己的能力，而不是站在这边围堵自己的人民群众。
These are some quotes from the media. Demonstrations have broken out across Chinese cities and university campuses, triggered by widespread anger at stringent COVID restrictions imposed for almost 3 years. One young man was cheered by the crowd as he said, "I used to be a coward, but today I have to speak up for those people who have perished." Calls to the university for comment were In Shanghai, the message, "Do not stay silent," was spray painted onto a red billboard celebrating the 70th anniversary of Eastern China's University of Political Science and Law. The gentleman shouting in some of the videos, and you can see lots of these videos in the link in the description below, something I made a little bit earlier today, "Give us liberty or give us death." Ever since all these videos that came out late last night and early in the morning on Sunday, the 27th of November, Beijing or Hong Kong time, has gone a bit quiet, and we don't know what's been happening over the last, you could say, 12 hours ever since the protests came to a close last night. I would hope that this is a continuation by no form of kind of activity related to, you could say, what happened in some kind of protest around the world. I'm being very careful on what to say here, but to maybe march down the street and show the CCP the annoyance of the people. Enough is enough. In Xinjiang, they had a 100-day lockdown. In Shanghai, earlier this year, they had a close to 2.5-month lockdown. In Xi'an, the former capital of China, earlier at the beginning of the year, they had a 6-week lockdown. In Guangzhou, for example, another place, they have started a lockdown, and they say 2 weeks and it gets extended to 3 weeks. Some people say the catalyst of these protests is the World Cup, where they see millions of people in Qatar, the football World Cup, without a mask, and seeing football players like Ronaldo, who's actually caught COVID 2 times, still playing football, still healthy. And some of the people saying that thousands of people per day are actually dying with the situation of COVID, and China is the only place in the world which is safe in the world, but they have 31,000 cases per day. What is the solution? Well, only time will tell. I'm not a politician, I'm more of a retired businessman, so to speak. I can think of it in a business way, but the two shall never meet. If you want more information and a more detailed description, please go to the China Show with Serpent ZA and Sea Milk. That's Matt and Winston, who did a live stream of this from the United States. These guys are really experienced in China. I do believe they have 24 years combined total of experience in China from the early part of this century to up to 2018, and have seen a change. I certainly have. The first time I was in China was 1994, and the last time I was actually in mainland China was 2013 in Shanghai for a couple of days. And I've seen a difference in there. And basically, you would say what the people require would be the citizens. The minimum that they want is for Xi Jinping to resign and go back, or to step down and go back to the early part of this century, where China was an actual very happy place and people were getting rich. Now it's all changed. I do actually remember way back in 2015 speaking to a young graduate who I was helping to get into Cambridge University, saying, mark my words, 2021, 2022, things are going to happen in China. I took it with a pinch of salt at the time, but he was right. My name is James. Thank you so much for your time.